Now, demand. Demand is uh, demand in layman's language is the urgency of a certain good in a certain market. The need of a certain good in a certain market. And how is it affected by price? The price of a certain, if there is an increase in the price of a certain commodity, the demand falls. Therefore, the demand curve is always a downward sloping. For instance, allow me to use a certain example where we see we have different types of stationery, assuming a mathematical set or a pen. A pen, we have the beak, the original beak, the sharp pointed beak, which goes at 25 shillings. And we have the Obama smooth line, which goes for 10 shillings. Many people tend to buy the pen for 10 shillings because it has a lower price and therefore the quantity demanded is higher. For the big sector, for the big pen, the big is at 25 shillings, but people are seeing it too expensive to buy. So there is no demand for the big pen, but there is demand for the Obama smooth line pen because it is cheap. I think this example is helpful to you, where an increase in price leads to a decrease in the quantity demanded, and the vice versa. It reaches a time where the supply and the demand are equal, and this is what we call the market equilibrium. The point at which the supply curve interjects or intersects with the demand curve is called the point of equilibrium, whereby a certain at a certain price, let's see maize flour at 100 shillings 1 kg. At a certain price, the quantity of the commodity or the quantity supplied and demanded are equal. That is where we say that we have attained an equilibrium market. Now, without further much ado, I'd like to proceed to the economic theory, the microeconomics theory, where we'll be able to discuss the elasticity, the consumer behavior, and the opportunity cost. I'll begin with elasticity. And elasticity refers to the ability of the quantity demanded or the quantity supplied to vary in regards to the change in price or any other factor. The ability of a certain commodity to adjust, or rather the quantity demand or supply to adjust in changes to price and other factors. And this is given by the formula as PED, which stands for the point of elasticity demand, given as the change in quantity over the change in price. We also have the utility, the consumer's behavior and preference, where we discuss about utility and the various formulas of calculating total utility, marginal utility, and yes, and all of those. So, what is utility? Utility is a satisfaction of a certain good. The satisfaction of a consumer to a certain good. And the total utility is therefore the total amount of satisfaction a consumer gets from purchasing or undertaking a certain good or commodity. So, how do we calculate marginal utility? Marginal utility refers to the total utility over the quantity. The total units the marginal utility is calculated as the total utility over the quantity. Marginal utility still you can define as the total utility over the quantity of a certain commodity. We also have the production function and the opportunity cost. In the production function, we can clearly discuss the relationship between labor, capital, and the output. We know that output is represented as where the relationship we can discuss the relationship between the production function and the operational cost, where the production function is the relationship between labor, capital, and the output. Under the production function, we have the short run and we have the long run. In the short run is a period during which at least one input is fixed. At least one input is fixed. In the long run, we can say that it's the period where a certain variables are not fixed. Now, when we mean what do we mean by the opportunity cost, the fixed cost, the variable cost, and the total? What do we mean by the opportunity cost, the fixed cost, the variable cost, and the total cost? The fixed cost refers to the certain amount of or the certain price of a certain commodity is fixed. It is not affected by either the government expenditure, the taxes, or an increase in the quantity demanded. Whether the price increases, whether the price goes down, it will remain to be a fixed cost. For instance, insurance or rentals or rented houses, the rent pattern. For the rentals and the insurances, whether people are experiencing drought or people are experiencing high wages, the premiums that are being paid are stagnant. The cost will be so the fixed cost refers to the ability or this or where a certain good or commodity is not affected by either an increase in price or other factors. For instance, rentals, insurances, etc., where an increase in maybe the whereby the increase of a certain good or a certain commodity or an increase in maybe the wages of the people who are working in an insurance company increases will not affect the premiums paid on the insurances. The price will still remain the same for the premiums and the insurance covers will still remain the same. This is why it's called a fixed cost. It is not affected by change in prices of a commodity. Another example is the rentals. Whether the price of a maize flour hits at 300 shillings, a person who stays at a house of maybe 10,000 will still be obliged to pay that 10,000 as the rent. How is it calculated? Before that, allow me to go back to variable cost. Variable costs are goods that can vary in matters regarding to changes in price and other factors. Variable cost, for example, oil, cooking oil. For example, cooking oil. When the cooking oil increases or when the diesel for cars, the oil for the fuel for cars increases, there is a higher chance or a probability that the cooking oil will increase in price. And this will also lead to an increase in price in also the maize flour. That is why when the oil is down or has reduced in price, everything else seems to reduce in price. That is what we call the variable cost. And the total cost is the amount, the addition or the total amount of cost, be it fixed and be it variable. So how is it calculated? Total cost is calculated as the total fixed cost plus the total variable cost. That is how we calculate the total cost. And the average total cost is as well calculated as the total cost over the quantity. That is how we get the average total cost. Total cost we divide by the quantity. Continuing, how do we calculate average fixed cost? Average fixed cost is calculated as the total fixed cost over the quantity. Students find it difficult to explain or to define such terminologies as average total cost, average fixed cost, total cost, variable cost, fixed cost. But here's a trick I'd like all of you to use. When you're discussing about formulas or when you're asked a certain terminology that has a formula, try and generate a sentence using the formula. For instance, when asked to describe average fixed cost, I would simply say average fixed cost is the total fixed cost per quantity. And that is how you get your 2 marks. Assuming you're asked define marginal cost, Marginal cost is the change in the total cost over the change in the quantity of a certain commodity. And you get your marks. Therefore, students, microeconomics is a very sweet topic, and that is the major information about microeconomics. And I'd like you to tackle questions or the past papers that have been there in the microeconomics literacy books. Lastly, I would like to urge everyone to be consistent and resilient in studying microeconomics. Be so ambitious about what happens to our economy. Right now, we are having a debate on the 2024/2025 budget analysis, the finance bill. We are having discussion about taxes, the increase in taxes in every commodity. As an economist, you will find that conversation so amusing, and therefore I urge each and every one of you to take part and do research and see different interactions in the media about the economy. Be ambitious to learn about economy, not only microeconomics, but also macroeconomics and any other economic related chapter. I want to wish you all the best as you continue with your studies, as you continue with your research. I'm your host, Ndunda. Thank you.